Better Lives. We've had a very quick show so far, and it's a kind of magic. Was a lot of magical things were being said that made me do an awful lot of thinking. That's not easy. So I want to welcome back Hayley, Hayley T. Wheeler, to the show, and also we now have another young lady, Rachel Jenkins. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, Ronnie. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and how you're involved with the mental health side.
Okay, hello everybody, and it's brilliant to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Rachel Jenkins. I am a farmer's daughter from here, Pembrokeshire, Pembrokeshire born and bred. I'm sitting right here in my office at our family farm right now. And so, what was the question? What is my involvement with mental health? Okay,
Yeah,
I suppose I could start just touching on the fact that I, like many people in life, have experienced challenges, and I had a complete nervous breakdown in 2010, and it was quite an extraordinary experience. And some people call it a breakdown, some people call it a breakthrough or a spiritual awakening. And as a result of my kind of experience of moving through that process, which was actually quite terrifying at times, um, I came to the conclusion that I would come back when I was ready and help bring some of my expertise to the mental health system in order to help others move through challenges such as I had experienced. I was fortunate enough to be very highly trained in some sort of levels of expertise in neurolinguistics and coaching at quite a high level in 2008, 2009, 2010. So I had a whole host of tools in my toolbox, which I didn't know, which I've been helping other people with, sort of one-to-one, sort of, if you like, therapy sessions, also with the healing arts of Reiki and things like that. But I didn't know that I would really, really need to dig deeply within that set of tools to be able to help myself through quite a traumatic time. And um, I had help with the mental health team here in Pembrokeshire, who were fantastic to a certain level, and they did their best. But fortunately, I had a few tricks up my sleeve, which meant that 6 weeks after having a breakdown, psychiatric nurses said that I was only one of two people in Pembrokeshire that they were visiting who was not taking any medication, and how on earth had I corrected myself so quickly from the depths of sort of the breakdown that I was experiencing. And so I yeah, it was a pledge. I said, that's it. There are some things here that need to come to the table to help people move through things in a way much easier than sort of some of the services that I was offered. I was fortunate enough to be connected with an um, amazing network of complementary therapists, different specialists in mindset and things like that. Had an extraordinary supportive family, and one step at a time, I kind of brought myself back together. And a few years later, I went online and I started to coach some of the techniques that I had used to coach myself to get myself into a really resourceful place again. And it became really, really successful in terms of how quickly people were able to bring themselves back to a place of balance and get their hands back on the steering wheel and really start to take charge of their lives in a really positive way. And so I've just been building on that over the last few years. That led me to moving to Cyprus to write my book called Freedom, which is called.
which we have a copy here to
You have
show.
a,
Yes.
there we go. What is it called? What does it
Okay.
say? Yeah, breakthrough limitations, tap into truth, live your purpose.
Yes. And I take it that was, in a sense, we were talking mantras and mottos, earlier. So
Yeah.
was that what yours was?
The motto on the book.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. It wasn't actually.
Ah.
I wasn't sure. I meditate a lot, and I very strongly listen to my guidance in my meditation, my inner voice. The kind, loving one, not the one, you know, do you ever get the kind of like monkeys in the head, kind of chatter, 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 which can be really unhelpful. The really loving one that I've come to trust. It was go to Cyprus, write a book. I didn't know what it was about, but off I went to Cyprus, and I went there for 6 months. I thought, oh, I'll write a book in 6 months. I didn't write a word for 6 months because I didn't realize I needed that space to get over the next level of trauma and give myself space from a very protracted and difficult divorce, losing my business, losing my home, losing lots and lots of stuff. But in between all of that, I'd gone online and was teaching my practice, my Rise to Shine practice. And it was so successful, I was able to put my daughter in boarding school. She didn't want to come to Cyprus with me. Can you believe that? So she went to boarding school, and it gave me space to decompress from quite a challenging few years, and then start to write my book. And then I wrote that in 6 months. I didn't know what it was going to be called. I just had to trust what was going to come out. And the book was a very cathartic process in terms of the book is very much the why I do the work that I do. And it touches on the practice that I've been teaching to thousands of people all over the world for the last kind of 6 years. And I was flying back from Cyprus to home to finish the book off. And at that point, that's when the name of the book and the title came in. So it wasn't a mantra in it itself, but that sort of subtitle, if you like, is
Yeah.
very much interwoven with what it is about that I help people to do.
So, Hayley, I mean, we're talking about the mindfulness, and again, like the monkeys chattering in the head, which I suppose is the negative voices or the negative thoughts. So, can both things work together? You know, the complementary as well as everything else.
I think that's what we're missing. I think there's a what's the word? There's a demand for everything, and I think everything works for everybody. Well, no, sorry. There's something for everybody, and we don't bring them all together. We don't sort of work together with the mental health system and the complementary therapies and all the other different therapies that are out there. And I think that's what we need to start to do now as things are getting worse out there with mental health and mental illness. We need to bring as many services together and make them an option for people, because we don't. We see, I think there's very much a traditional, a medical, complementary, holistic. There's lots of compartmentalizing things, whereas if we brought them all together and started to show people what's possible within all these different areas, I think we'd get people better a lot quicker than we do now.
Because, you know, as we said before, not everything works for everybody the same way. But, you know, there's always going to be somebody that will be helped by something, surely, yeah?
Yes.
I don't know how
Yeah.
you feel, Rachel.
Sorry,
I think
I should have said Hayley. So,
Rachel.
Rachel, sorry, darling. Bear with me. So you believe
well,
as
I'm
well
just
that,
going to say,
yeah. Carry on, Hayley.
I was just going to say, if you know what Rachel was thinking about in terms of the, what I find, I don't know if Rachel finds the same, is that people assume that they have to go down the medical route, that's the main offering and option. But actually, there's so many other things out there that work for people that they don't know about. Do you find that, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't work in the mental health system per se, I work with, you know, private clients who are experiencing challenges in one part or one or more parts of their life, and they would like to make a change. They might want to be looking for a slightly different path. They don't know what their next steps are, and I I've got a tool set, I've got a skill set, a tool set, a practice, a model, which helps people to self coach so that they can get real clarity about what their next steps are. And sometimes that can be signposting to other people. And so I would never say to somebody my journey was, I knew that medication wasn't what I needed. I had the skills to challenge the psychiatrist to say, how is giving me antidepressants? I said, I'm not depressed. I said, I'm really agitated. But how is giving me antidepressants going to change how I communicate with my husband? I was like, okay, well, it's not. You've got me there. Oh, but if you don't take them, you're going to have a relapse. I was like, forget it. The questions you're asking me, if I asked my clients those questions, they'd be feeling worse. You're not getting to the root of the problem. We simply need to understand what the root of the problem is and find a way of enabling that person to come back to their center and have finding the bits of the jigsaw puzzle that they need to support them. I can't give like I said, I can't speak for everybody. I understand that medication might help in some cases. I'm not an expert in that, but I didn't need them. I would never tell people to come off them or not to take them. But I do know that there are, as you say, Hayley, there are lots of different ways that people don't know about whereby they can self-regulate and live a normal, happy, balanced life where they can thrive. But it's just finding and connecting them with the right people, the right resources. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it does. I mean, it seems to me with a lot of people that I've known that have suffered with depression and anxiety, it seems to be the first place that, you go. It's like, well, we've got to go to the doctor, or everybody else said, go to the doctor, see the doctor. Would it... I mean, it's not always easy for people to be able to go to the doctor to say, hang on, I'm depressed. It's a big thing for people. What would you say to those people, Hayley?
I think, it's not a bad thing to go to the GP because it's a starting point. But I think the issue we have is that there isn't enough known about all the other kinds of support out there. My own program, I use teaching, coaching, mentoring, counselling, mindfulness, all in one. And that I use all the best elements from all of those modalities, and the effects on somebody. But if they don't know it's there, then I often see people who are trapped in a system that they don't know where to turn. So I think we just need to be better at communicating that actually we have a medical model, we have all these different models of help for mental health, for challenges, for life when life gets tough. But people don't really know about them. So, maybe this is the program that's going to do that, is going to start showing people that there are different ways out there. And I think it's so important because one way doesn't fit all. I'm sure, Rachel, you've had clients you can't work with that don't fit with your model, equally myself. But if you don't know that things are out there and you're constantly trying the same thing, it's so heartbreaking to try things and not get anywhere. Whereas then if somebody opens the door and says, actually, have you tried, I've looked at this, this, and this, and this, that can be a life-changing experience for somebody.
So, Rachel, how do you think the best way would be to get it out there that there are all these different ways?
Oh my God, now that's a question and a half. Well, I wish I knew the answer to that, Ronnie. That's a great question, and I'd rather just sit with that and process it because I don't have the answer to that. I'm sure there's some people listening now who go, we know. So if you
know, yes, get in touch, please.
No, please. No, I mean, I think one of the things that you touched on, Hayley and Ronnie, is that, sometimes it can be difficult for people to say, okay, I've got a problem. I'm not okay, and going to the doctor, if that would be, their first port of call. And historically, I found I don't know if this is the same for you, Hayley, but I find that women tend to find it easier to come forward and say, look, something's not okay, I need some help. So it might just be me, I don't know, but 95% of the people that I work with historically are females. So I don't know how that compares to any statistics. I'm not involved with anything outside of my own modality and the work that I've done. So you might have another take on that, Hayley.
Hayley?
Yeah, I do think men find it a lot more challenging to ask for help because of the way society is set up. It makes it difficult to do that. They're not, I often have conversations with men who will say, I'm not supposed to be feeling this way. I'm supposed to be the breadwinner. I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm supposed to not have emotions. And I think women are more likely, because we are a little bit more welcoming of women talking about their emotions than we are men. I'm not saying we're there yet. We've got a long way to go still with women. But I think women have, we talk amongst ourselves. We have a pattern of being able to talk to people, whereas men tend not to. I've run some workshops with rugby teams, and it's the same thing that comes back. We wouldn't talk about mental health or well-being in this environment.
Is it because it is an all-male environment?
Mainly male, yes. I think that's the feedback I get. But I think it is changing. I do think that the tide is turning. We just have a long way to go. And I say this about safeguarding. Years ago, I was a safeguarding officer, and it took us 30 years to get to the point where safeguarding became something that everybody would talk about. We are on that journey with mental health now, and I think we've come a way. We just haven't come enough of a way yet.
So, Rachel, what would you suggest would be perhaps one of the first places for people to, I'm not okay, I've got a problem, I don't want to go to the doctor, what do I do? Where do I go?
So that's a great question again now, you see.
Sorry.
No, it's great. Well, look, it's reflecting to me in terms of, I actually don't know. As in, and this is what I was faced with myself when I went through that challenge, that as literally, I went to sleep and I thought, and the little voice in my head was going, "It's okay, you're gonna die in a minute," and and I actually believed I was dying, and I was like, "What have I done? What have I done? What is going on?" My head literally had exploded because I was responding to deep stress, and I didn't know where to go. And where I went was my cousin, who was a GP, and my cousin, who was a GP, sent me to my GP. And my GP sent me to Pembrokeshire. I can't remember what it's called. Is it Brogerwin?
Brogerwin, yes.
And I was shocked by the questions that I was asked, and I was like, well, I could just do it myself with the people that I knew, because that was, so that was the path that I went down, and I was like, well, I've got to come back and teach them some things, because there's some better questions that they can ask people. They need to get to the root of the problem and help people turn this around. Giving medication to, this is my humble opinion, because I had an expertise in it, with neurolinguistics, helping basically create positive panels of thought so you can move forward positively and respond more positively to life, rather than having a medication, which to me was just like, well, that's just putting a plaster on the problem. You're not getting to the root. You've got to get those weeds out, and find a new solution. So I can't even answer that question. I mean, I have one of the solutions in terms of a model, a practice, and as Hayley said, it's not going to be for everybody. And historically, I've been working with smaller groups of people, but in October, I'm really excited. I don't know if this is the time to mention it, an event that I'm hosting.
Oh, yes, I hear you have an event. Go for it. Tell us all about it.
Well, I was in response to, I actually have been online for 5 years, when we know what's been happening over the last couple of years with regards to the pandemic and the level of stress and, in fact, trauma to quite a lot of people. It's like a mass trauma response, the level of change, the level of uncertainty, not all the goalposts moving, etc. People being in different states of health, different stages of their lives, not knowing if they're going to be okay, if they catch COVID, etc. And I actually made a conscious decision to come offline when lockdown happened. I was still kind of mentoring a group of about 25 people at the time. And I stepped back because I trusted my guidance and my meditation, which was protect your family. And And I tend to be a little bit like a magnet. And I got quite frustrated after a year because I was like, I need to get out there and help people again because I've got some really good key things. I'm already online. I can, but my energy wouldn't allow that to happen. But what happened was it created a space for me, not just to take care of myself and my family first. It gave me the strength and the space to create the event, which is taking place in October. And that is very much in response to, oh my gosh, what witnessing and observing the challenges that people were experiencing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in response to the pandemic. And so hence I've created a beautiful platform of the venue is 1,500. It's quite exciting, a bit nervous, but it's quite exciting as well, whereby I'm going to take everybody through my practice. So rather than 100 people online or 25, 1,500 people online through my practice, because it's very quick in 20 minutes. If you wake up in the morning, you're feeling yucky, because let's face it, sometimes we just do, right?
Quite often.
In 20 minutes, people can have an experience of shifting into a really highly resourceful emotional state. And when you have those tools to be able to do that and quickly, it means that you can then make really good decisions and start building on that. That's what the practice is that I teach, the Rise Time practice. And I'm one part of the jigsaw puzzle. I've pulled together an extraordinary team of healthcare experts who are absolutely passionate about what they do. You can get your mind and your emotions in level, but there are a few little key things that I've learned over the last 10 years to do with health that helps you stay on top form, and it all comes together. I don't look at just mental health in its own thing. I look at whole human. So food has to come into it, right? We've all heard we are what we eat. We are what we think. We are what we eat. We are who we kind of hang around with and our environment. And so I've created, not me, because I can't do it myself, brought in some extraordinary people who I trust deeply, who have helped me transform my health over the last 10 years. Because when my mental health failed, my physical health failed 10 years ago as well. My digestion stopped working because I was holding my stress in my digestion. So I couldn't eat. So that had a lot of implications. I had to kind of work that back. So a lot of the complementary healthcare practitioners who've helped me are going to be at the event. And there's easy ways, there's easy wins that people can do to make simple little changes that they might not have known about. I didn't know this stuff in school. and so we're taking people on an immersive experience from soil, literally from the ground up, to get people an awareness of how they can optimize their mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health. Right, we're starting in the soil, we're going up to soul, we're bringing it all together, and taking people through the practice so that they can feel it's like a reset, walking into a really safe environment where you can connect more deeply with yourself in a really, even though there's going to be 1,500 people there, people will feel like they're with themselves and safe, grounded, and centered and empowered, because of the information that we're going to be imparting. It's an experiential, it's an experience where, if I said to you, what's that, you might be drinking a cup of tea or something, what's that cup of tea taste like? You can't, I've got no idea if you try and explain it to me. So we're taking people through it. So it's like, right, this is how good you can feel, and this is how easy it is to happen. I don't know if I made that clear. So, but that's what we're doing. And so ultimately we want to be so that it's not just me, it's the team of us plus me are going to be easily accessible, ultimately moving forward. So like Rise to Shine movement, to help people reset, build their personal resilience, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, so they can go into thrive mode. A lot of us are normals, right? We don't know what we don't know. We don't know how amazing we can feel, right? And there's a lot of us who it's like, we walk the talk. I meditate every day, okay, I fall off the bandwagon sometimes. I had a couple of glasses of red wine on Saturday, then I paid for it with a rain for 2 days. It's like, oh my God, am I that much of a lightweight now? It's like,
how can people get hold of tickets to, or how would they be able to get to the event?
Really easily. you have to. I've literally just come back from the Forest Scene. I've been there for a week. We've just been filming and doing all sorts of things. We've got a website called risetoshineevents.com. risetoshineevents.com. We've got a Facebook page. Bear with, because literally over the last 4 months, we're bringing it all together. Instagram. I'm not an Instagrammer, so I'm bringing
Not
in
me, don't worry about it.
all that. So it's there, and so basically it's all online. So all the tickets, all the information is on there. There's little videos that have been going up. They're literally going up now. Actually, some of the different practitioners and the people who are speaking. We've actually got a discount code for the Pure West Radio listeners. It's PWR. That's PWR, which is Pure West Radio 22, which gives a 10% discount on all tickets. It's a one-day event. There's also concessionary tickets. Nobody has taken us up on this yet, where we invite people to say, look, if you really want to come, if you feel really called to come to this event, get in touch with us if you haven't got the means, because we'll do everything that we can, to get you there. And again, it's an interesting one because people haven't come forward and gone, do you know what? So we're doing what we can to make it as accessible as we possibly can for people.
Thank you for that. So don't forget, the code is PWR22 for that, what sounds like a fantastic event online. You did touch on something there, which brought a question into my head, which I'm going to throw at you, Hayley. Is, concessionary tickets, not having the means. And the way things are now in life, with the cost of living going up, the cost of fuel going up, and people struggling, how can they deal with the mental health issues that come out from that? Because, there's a lot of people out there now struggling. What's the best way for them to deal with that?
I think it is about making sure that they speak to the right people. There's lots of support out there for and guidance to get people to be able to access financial support, to make sure that they are accessing everything that they're entitled to. And I think a lot of, in particular, when there's practical things to be dealt with, you need to see to them before you can work with the mental health. And it's a bit of a cycle, I suppose. There's if you do the mental health, will that get easier? But I think sometimes when it comes to particularly debt, with things rising, I see a lot of people in debt, or at least facing debt as the rises go up, particularly with gas and electric. But there's lots of support out there for the practical side as well as the mental health side. So make sure that, if you've spoken to, there's CAB, I know on Facebook, there's a group, an energy saving group, who is amazing at giving advice and guidance on the gas and electric, and teaching people how to budget with food. They often put out a weekly shopping list, and it tells you how much everything is for the next week to set up all your meals for the next week. It's really fantastic for resources.
That's a brilliant one, isn't it? Yeah.
But finding those resources, as well as then finding the right people to support you with mental health. And I think often that first person to reach out to is that trusted person, whether it's somebody who's already in your circle or somebody who you know of, but or you feel like you trust them. Is reaching out to that person, whether it's a GP, a nurse, or friends and family.
It's a good start. We are going to take a break, and I'm going to thank you, Rachel Jenkins, for joining us. This, again, Freedom, is her book. She's a #1 Amazon bestseller. So keep an eye out for it. Plus, there's that lovely event online, which we will put details up from afterwards. So I'm going to take a short break, say thank you very, very much for giving up your time tonight, Rachel.
You're very welcome.
And hopefully we will speak to you again soon.
Okay.
So great. I'm going to put a bit of music on. And no, I'm not. Yes, I am. I'm going to put some music on.